What's going on, creators? You just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Today I'd like to just continue the conversation on mental diets. Hopefully adding something positive to your mental diet for today. I say it probably every time. How important I feel like at least your mental diet is for your overall state of well-being and your consciousness and everything. Especially if you're get sucked into these dramas from the world, anymore. Like, probably, I don't know how long this has been going on with me, but it just, even getting on the internet anymore just seems like such a drag. I kind of just find myself scrolling through random social media, and it's just like, with COVID and everything else, everybody's just so just involved with that drama. And, it's easier for me just to put the shit down. More easy than it's ever been, really. And so continuing to do that, encouraging others to kind of put the media down for a while. And this is a form of media. And so not to sit and like, oh, it's all evil and bad and wrong. It's just, is it serving you, or is it not? Ultimately, the question you got to ask yourself, it's like, is this bringing any type of peace, joy, fulfillment? Listening to all these faces give advice on just random things, or is it time to kind of just be your own kind of just, I don't know, do your own thing, basically. That's kind of the direction I'm continuing to move into. I'm working on, a new track at the moment. Had a little bit of, time to do one of these streams, but, it's like kind of just doing like a soundscape, type idea at the moment. I don't know what it's going to evolve into. And that's like the thing with music, playing an instrument, producing, just doing art in general is like, you start with, just kind of just letting the creativity start to fly. And by the time you're looking at it, you're assessing it, and then you add to it, take away from it. And, I feel like our consciousness is a lot like that, where if you look at it through like the eyes of like an artist, instead of like a judge, it's a little bit easier to not take things so seriously, I guess, as you realize it's a work in progress. And like, and that's not like a cop out either. You hear that from some people. It's like, expecting other people to be just like this shining example of like this perfect thing. When we're all just, even like biblically, we're talking about like God's the sculptor and we're the clay. It's like, looking at our consciousness, our life, or whatever's going on in the present moment. And, it's easy to like look at it and then start judging it, and then, whatever, just spinning out in like a negative cycle with it. Instead of just like looking at it like, it's like playing an instrument. It's like something you never really master it. You do, I guess, but that's more of like other people's opinions. It's like, but as you like progress and you just enjoy playing or creating, you like bring it into like reality. Then you like look at it, and then the next thing is, well, can I improve that? Is that spark an idea for some future thing that I can start to bring into reality next? And looking at life like that, where it's just like, well, there's some things that are being brought to like awareness, to consciousness, that maybe it's like a guitar's like, playing scales, and it's like, oh, this area of the neck is just real sloppy, and it's just like, you need to tighten that up a little bit, and you don't need to, but it's like, well, be able to play the way you do up in like the 5th and 7th fret, all the way down at the 12th fret, with that same kind of flow, because as someone who does play an instrument like that, and knowing through experience kind of these flow states, you can transfer those to anything that your body's doing. It's like, playing guitar. A lot of times, maybe people think that there's a lot of mental activity going on, when you're playing a song or something in front of people. I don't experience that. I experience the opposite, where it's just like blending. It's almost like you forget that you're the one playing, because it's becoming one. It's just, there isn't this mental separation. There isn't this like inner critic like saying, oh, you suck. And, actually, it's like getting out of that more and more so, because it's like when you're in a flow state, like not even judging what you're doing, you're just like straight on beat, and just playing. Very little mental activity. It's just being present in the experience of it. And so much of like moving moving forward, for me, is radically just accepting the present moment. And because a couple reasons. One is like you're always being shown a reflection of your own consciousness through your life experiences, your relationships, your family, your careers, your all these milestones that we as human beings experience in creation. There's all of that, but like if you're not accepting the present moment, you're ultimately never accepting yourself and who you are, and so in accepting accepting the present moment and not battling and resisting against it doesn't mean that it's like you play the guitar and you play some jazz notes or something, or there's some area that's just like, man, I'm just real sloppy at that. It's not playing clean, and it's like transitioning from like that chord to that chord is maybe difficult. It's like looking at those things objectively. It's just like, okay, whatever. That doesn't mean anything about my identity because of that. But taking it and then tweaking it, practicing it, repetition, be able to get that to flow more and more without like the mental stories and the dramas and everything else. And the same thing with the present moment. What's going on today. What's going smoothly, what feels good, what's coming up. It's like almost like a weed. I feel like it's important to kind of keep that gardening type of concept in mind in your consciousness when dealing with these different activities of thought and form, even to realize that you might be seeing an illusion or experiencing an illusion, and when that happens, not to sit there and battle against the illusion and all of a sudden start to make it real. It's like with the guitars, like, oh, you're gonna start battling and struggling against like playing a series of notes, or recognize that as just being an opportunity to stand in faith, to practice something new, to experience something new. And not to sit there and constantly not have these negative stories where you're telling yourself, oh, how much you suck, and it's like, oh, somebody's like just born better, or somebody's just more superior, or whatever. And the thing with like even just playing an instrument, you can always see somebody who's better at something. It's the nature of things. It's like there's always somebody on that next level. For one, you can sit there instead of like being envious and jealous, to be thankful that they've put in like their puzzle piece into this, playing an instrument or something, that shows you like what else is possible. It's like you get some like people that do like sweep picking and metal where it's just chunk, but then you have people that are finger style blues playing that's just like, that's crazy. I didn't even know a guitar could make sounds like that. You got people playing classical, that it's just like, wow, that's a totally different take on, playing. And it doesn't stop, it's just like, what gets people, I think, to like maybe like plateau or whatever, is just the mental stories of like, well, this is just where I'm at. This is what I can do. And whatever, and like for me personally, it's like after like 20 years of playing, the most recent like understanding is just understanding silence. It's like so much of like my progression in playing, had been like, how many notes can you scram, bring into one measure or one beat, or how fast can you play, how many notes can you play, that means you're good and you made it. But then it's playing more like as like a producer, a lot of that shit starts to become not as relevant, because it's like, well, I want to make a track that that it'll be useful for publishing people, and so like rhythmically, that was more important, playing on time to make it easier to put together tracks and everything for that whole kind of world of music, was more I guess beneficial, and like the same thing just with silence and playing rhythmically. It's like, it's not just the note, it's the the silence between the notes that creates a tension and an energy and a dynamics, which it took me 20 years to realize that that was even important. And so hopefully that saves you a little bit of time if you're, like a musician or player or just play for fun or whatever you're doing, with music. Music is such a weird business. It's just, it's so weird, as compared to like the handyman business, where it's a lot more like, oh yeah, you're coming to paint the living room. Here's the normal flow of things. With music, it's a little bit more different, I guess, because like a lot of it is like you're still creating something of value, but like a lot of times it's just different, and especially with like the internet and how much that has changed the business model of music and everything else. It's flirting with this unknown new kind of situation, which I think is awesome, because it doesn't matter where you live, and it doesn't really matter all of these gatekeepers or whatever. It's just like ultimately just between you and God and an audience, I guess, of people that are kind of into what you're putting out. But like continuing to move forward is just like, for me it's just now what, now, and it's like is there anything being brought to awareness to kind of address? No, not really. But it's like, well, how are you feeling? Are you feeling base? You feeling solid? You feeling good? And realize that you can start to expand on that, just as much as you can expand on your skills of playing an instrument or producing music or doing whatever job you're doing. It's like, and even doing drywall, how good can you get that? How smooth can you make it? How it's like, how nice, can you trim a paint job, from a ceiling? It's like all of these different things you can find flow in, and like it really doesn't even matter. It's all a state of being, and like trying to be something that is even like you don't have to try. Yes, it's like, who are you now without the whatever's, embody it more and more so of that, and it's like a lot of times, who are you without this story of fear? That's what keeps so many people trapped in these little boxes, is these stories of fear and limitation and lack and scarcity and everything else, which is ultimately just stories that you're telling yourself that has no basis in reality. You can tell yourself the exact opposite, tell yourself loving things and, oh, you're good and this and that. But I feel like in even just doing these conditional types of love is limiting, because I feel like God's unconditional. It's like it's always in the present moment, so it's like love based on doingness and, oh, I gotta do, it's kind of missing the point of like the present moment, realizing that you don't have to do anything for God to love you. God just inherently loves you because God created you. And God knows who you are, and so it's like you don't have to be doing all this efforting and struggling and striving all the time. And I feel like that's helpful to keep in mind, because I've kind of like through my life experience of working has been kind of an important value. And it's something, like I constantly kind of find myself like, well, what do I need to do next? What do I need to do? And a lot of it is just realizing that just like, I just need to watch God do things. It's like, I don't gotta, it's like, oh, there's an illusion. What do I gotta battle and resist next? It's like nothing. It's just, I'm just going to watch God solve that problem. It's like, oh, I feel scarcity. Oh, there's, this, story I'm telling myself about why, this business is, stagnating. This one's doing okay. This, all these different stories. And it's like, well, I just need to let a lot of that go and just, what's going on today, you never, and I've told people with this before with like advertising. It's like, oh, it's like, oh, you make the phone ring, put a bunch of ads and shit out there, and it's like, I've done that multiple times, putting ads out to try to, stimulate business and stuff, and then it's funny because you do all that efforting and all that, and then you get a call from an existing customer that didn't even see the ad, but then you get into this flow again, and it's like, it happens so often too. It's weird, but like yeah, I just wanted to get on here and kind of just ramble a bit. Some people just like to hear that kind of stuff. Just take their mind off of whatever's going on in their space, kind of bring them back into presence, and hopefully, if on some level that has helped you, kind of just get back into the today and like, focus on, if this was your last day on Earth, it's like, what would you want to be doing? It's like, how would you like to be having a screaming match with your significant other, or your family or children, or would you like just want to enjoy their presence and enjoy the time you have with them? So many people, I've realized this through my dad passing, recently, where it's just like, so many people walk around in this kind of just hypnotic delusion, where it's always just, oh, what's going on tomorrow? What's going on in, a week from now? What's going on from, and in doing that, they're never just here and now, enjoying what's going on, the people around them. And it's frustrating, I guess, from my perspective, where it's just like, you just let that shit go and let's just hang out and just enjoy the day. You always got to be efforting and doing whatever. None of that shit even matters, when it's all said and done. It's like, leave all this shit behind anyway. Does it matter, what house you live in or what you did with business shit? It's just like, all of that stuff you're just gonna set down someday. And not to say it's unimportant. It's like, I kind of realized, more so of like leaving something behind for my family, so it's not a big headache for them. It's like almost like, oh, he passed, but now look, it's like, look what, left all this kind of whatever, that brings people joy still. I feel like that's kind of important to maybe think about, moving forward, is like leaving something, for others to enjoy, even though you can kind of set it down and not be attached to it. Looking at these kind of attachments towards things that maybe come up, and just like, really, what is that about? It's like, why do I feel like so strongly like that's part of my identity? Or, I'm thinking about that with like my dog, who's like, I think 17 or 18 years old. It's like, I feel like a really strong attachment towards my dog, and it's just like, wondering why, why am I so attached? What is going on with that? And, looking at all these things, of like, some days like, I gotta let it go, or it's just gonna be taken anyway, or, but even in that, it's like, it's all part of consciousness, so it's not really going anywhere. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. It kind of makes sense to me, but who knows anymore? Things are so up in the air as far as like what's going on, quote unquote, tomorrow. Everybody's experiencing today in their own fucking weird ways. Some people are spending today in the present moment just suffering needlessly, being triggered, being angry, blaming others for their problems, and it's like, you don't have to keep doing that. Those are one of the things I try to at least remind people of, and at least remind myself. It's like, if you're not enjoying today, when are you ever going to enjoy anything? Never. It's like when you die, then all of a sudden everything, then you can enjoy it. But like, having a whole bunch of that kind of drama going on. You got the service for my dad tomorrow, which I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I'm trying not to get too in my mind about it. It's like trying to keep a an upbeat energy, and hopefully that translates to that. I don't want to just hear a bunch of people just upset and depressed and hysterical and that kind of energy. I think I'm going to have to do a eulogy or speech or something. I don't know. All these labels and these terms. It's like, I don't even know what you call that. It's like he's like cremated, so it's like really, but it's going to be at a funeral home, and trying to keep it more of an upbeat vibe. I guess maybe that might be weird for some people. I don't know. I don't even really care, to be honest. It's like, everybody experiences like loss and death differently. I guess depending on where your faith is. it could be a really traumatic thing, especially if you're identifying with your old mind, where it just feels separate from everything and separate from people and separate from circumstances and events. Yeah, I could see that being pretty fucked up. I've experienced like funerals and stuff like in that kind of mindset, and it was like really fucked up and so and depressing and sad. And I had like a drinking problem at one point, where it's just like a friend of mine had died tragically, alcohol related shit. And like I spent like most of the day just getting fucking hammered, and like didn't want to go to the viewing, didn't want to go to the service or any, I don't know if viewing and this, it's the same. It's like whatever, just seeing them in the coffin. Yeah, whatever you want to call that. And like, I didn't know if I wanted to go to it after I started drinking, and then I just got so fucking drunk that I didn't want to go. And then, I was like drinking with my neighbor who like was like, well, you should go. And just for whatever, and they took me there and dropped me off there, and then like, just being drunk and belligerent, was not a good thing. It sounds like a rock star thing. It's like, oh, you hear about like some celebrity doing it, and it's like, then when you do it, it's just like there's still I don't even know, there's some people I like run into that it's still an issue. And it's just like, well, that's right, I don't drink anymore, and so it's like, I don't know what else to say to you about it, but whatever's, I can't take it back. But like, I'm not going to have that energy going into this, so hopefully, there's some evolution of consciousness there. But like, I think I'm going to bounce it. I'm going to get back to working on that track. It should be, uploaded onto YouTube and probably SoundCloud when it's done. And it's the same kind of thing. If you're making like truth videos, if you're just making something creative, you just need some assets and you don't have a big budget or anything, feel free to just download it and use it in your video, your track, or whatever you're doing. But if you do have a budget and whatnot, it's just, hook a brother up. I appreciate you licensing the tracks. Then if you also have a budget and your ability to do that, and so either way, other than that, I think I'm going to bounce. So thanks everybody for listening, liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your spiritual support and your financial support. Thank you for that. And I guess until the next now, God bless.